Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Kitchen time, and it's an unusual kitchen time because I'm up to something I don't get up to too often, but I'm happy to do so occasionally. I'm following somebody else's advice. The reason being, the individual involved knows what they're talking about, bonus, has tried this on many occasions and it works generally speaking. There is one downside, which I'll explain in a minute, but basically this little Victoria regina is not doing very well. It arrived in a sorry state, and this individual took one look at it and said, that large cane that you've got, strap it to the mount on top of some moss and think of it as every leaf joint is a potential kiki. Now, I've seen Dendrobiums have their canes cut off and led in trays of damp moss, and they shoot out from the leaf joints. I've seen it, so it does work. The downside is that occasionally some rot can set in. Yeah, so that's the downside. But at the moment, the only real life on this poor little plant is that tiny little new growth, which is a branch off of this cane. That's all it's got. It's got a couple of active roots in there, but these are not easy to grow. And the reason they're not easy to grow is they don't come from the normal sort of place where a lot of our Dendrobiums come from. These are real cool growers, and on top of that, they're not bright light orchids. So number one, this was being kept in the wrong place, far too bright, and in a place where it wasn't ridiculously far from the heater when it kicks on. So totally the wrong care for it. So I'm going to have a go at this strapping onto some moss. Don't bury the cane, rest it on top of the moss. That's the theory, and as I've said, I've seen it work. And then this is going down with my Draculas. It's going to hang in that area where it's got those little computer fans on 24/7, and it'll get far less light in that area. And let's see if it perks up. Excuse me. That went down the wrong way. Right, so I have a little moss, not a lot, and all I'm going to do is, there's a crevice in the mount, and I'm going to fill that up, and there's a good reason for that. Excuse me, hang on, I need to clear my throat. Right, sorry about that, but I think I'm desperately fighting something off at the moment. Something is lurking. I usually win. I very rarely get coldy things and throat problems and stuff, but you know, maybe this one's going to get me. Right, so there's a deep crevice there, which I've now filled with moss. The reason is that when I tie it, if I didn't put enough moss in that crevice, then the cane wouldn't be held against it very well. So I've mounted the moss up so that I can gently pull the cane onto it and hold it firmly, but not too firm. It's a little bit fiddly, but we'll see how we go. This, as I say, this only needs to be gently held, doesn't need to be strapped on as though it's falling off the end of the world. Just a gentle hold, and only sitting on the moss, not buried in it. Especially as it's now going to go into colder conditions. Yeah, I've always said that cold and wet are not a good combination for a lot of orchids. Some are fine, but I don't want to go too mad. Alright, so that's got that held. And then I'm just going to gently go round a couple of times. That's all I'm going to do, so that the cane itself sits on the moss, but is only just touching it, not buried in it. Just tuck that a little bit in. And the good thing is, if this works and some of these leaf joints do produce some kikis, they will grow straight through that moss onto the bark and will become self-supporting little plants. They will have their own little root systems, and before I pull that, let's just make sure the cane is sat where I want it. Yeah, 3 is enough. And we'll just tie that off. But yeah, each individual little kiki, if I get some, will push their roots straight down through that moss and onto the mount, and then will grow on. So although they will use some of the energy from that cane, not that it's got a lot, it's quite a weak plant, this one, and they will use some of that stored energy to produce the kikis, but once they get their own roots going, they will effectively become self-sufficient. So now this little cane here is probably not going to make it. It's very shriveled. This one, although the leaf and the growing tip died back, the cane itself is still strong but tiny, and hopefully that little new growth is actually going to produce some roots soon, and that will help add to some strength in the plant, because it hasn't got many roots at the moment. Now it's not growing much, so it doesn't really need a big root system yet, but this cane is strong and firm. It's not desiccated. So there is something in the plant to get going. But, we'll give that a try. As I say, it's a novelty. I haven't done this before. I see no reason why that shouldn't work. And that effectively gives 1, 2, 3, 4 leaf nodes the chance to produce a little plant. And even if only 1 or 2 of them do it, that will probably do better like that than it would have done just hanging in the air, where the chances of the kikis would be a lot less. So we'll give that a go. See how that works, and also cool it down. Let's get it in a cooler place where it doesn't get... At the moment, what triggered this, I was just watering some of the mounts, and we have some sunshine today, and the hanging rack where this is on the farthest side of the grow room from where the sun comes in, and yet through that gap this was sat in full sun, and when I picked the mount up it felt warm to the touch. So even at that distance from the glass it was still picking up some heat, and obviously some very strong light relative to what it ought to have. So we'll get a better place for it and keep our eye on those leaf joints and see what happens. Short video, but what I'm going to do is, you don't have to watch this. I've been asked by several people to have a look at my awards, as they do catch the camera sometimes up on the end of the kitchen wall. That lot up there, he says, wobbling the camera around in one hand. So I actually filmed them last night and had a chat about them. If you're not interested in that sort of thing, you can bail out, not a problem. But I was asked by several people, well, I've done part of what I was asked to do. I was asked to go over the awards and show the plants that went with them. Well, the awards are on the kitchen wall, the plants are in the grow room. And some of those awards, I don't even remember what plant they're for. But all will be revealed in the next part of the video. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Just a quick kitchen session. Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is sort of kitchen time, but this is a request from quite a few people really, to go over, well, the primary request is really to go over the awards I've got and have a look at the plants that went with them. Fortunately, some of those plants are no longer with me, and in some cases, because of the not very good awards that you get, I don't even remember which plants go with them. But that's the first ever award I got, and that actually had some silverware with it. I actually got a cup, and that was an Oncidium intergeneric called something like Masai Red or Masai Splash, and basically I put it in the novice class which is only for people that have never won anything before. And I was the only entry, so I not only got the first, I got the cup, which is, in my opinion, that's not a good award, because if you're the only entry, you automatically get the first, and you could even have a lousy plant. Actually, it wasn't a bad plant, that's long since gone. Can't remember whether I gave that away or whether it turned its toes up. I can't remember. But going over the types of awards you get, you have a look at this one. This was at the Wessex show. This is back in, this would have been their spring show in 1917. And they have a selection of these, and they go round and plonk them on the plant, blank. So if you want the details, you have to write them on yourself. Not quite sure that's a brilliant idea. Nonetheless, it was nice to have a culture award, and Cattleya Young Min Orange is probably going to come into bloom soon. I think it's got some lumpy bits in the sheaths, so we should be seeing that one again. It's a lovely bloom, that one. This one goes back to 1915, so I'd have been a bit of a novice at the Bournemouth Orchid Society, and I haven't got a clue what plant that was, because it doesn't say, and I can't remember that long ago. But it got a first in the category that I'm in, but I can't for the life of me remember what plant that was. If we get down to here, this was again 2015, so same sort of year. I actually got a cup for the best Oncidium. Obviously Oncidianae is a class, and at our shows, you know, this is quite a well populated class. You sometimes get an awful lot of entries in here, because this does include the hybrids and the intergenerics, so it can be quite a big class. And again, I haven't got a clue what plant that was, because it doesn't say, you know, so be it. The awards I've got at the International Orchid Show at Malvern, these quite honestly are rubbish certificates given the status of the actual show, but what else can they do? It's a 3-day event, and the certificates have to be given out on those 3 days, so they're very bland. You know, you can't have your name on there. They haven't got time to muck about finding out whose plant it is, what the actual plant name is, to get them printed. So you get a very generic award of merit. But that one I do remember, because it was a real surprise. This goes back to before my daughter had a heart operation, and we went there for the day, and she wasn't good. We had quite a bad day basically, so we didn't stay long, and just as we were about to go, we were saying goodbye to, you know, sort of friends and stuff, and somebody actually said, "Oh, have you seen you got an award?" And I was thinking, what the hell could I possibly have got an award for? And that was for my Tolumnia Euryphila, that at that time had two nice spikes on it, and I'd forgotten I'd even put it in. So, you know, but there's no record of the plant or anything, not even the date, not the year, very generic. Some of the Wessex Orchid Society ones are a bit, you know, this was a Brassavola nodosa that's gone now. And the way they classify their competition tables, they have an expert class and a novice class, nothing in between. So if you're not in the expert class, you're in the novice class, which is where I was put at the time. So that was for my Brassavola nodosa. And if you have a look at this award, Edith Edge Cup, Best Oncidium. I've actually got that one twice, so I've actually got my name on that cup twice. This one was the spring show in the previous year, and that was for my Oncidium Twinkle, the yellow one, that just happened to have a lot of spikes, nice and evenly spaced around the plant at the right time for that show. More luck than judgment, so that was that one. I haven't got a clue what that one was for. It's the Malvern show. I got a feeling that was for Shelob Tolkien, but that's a guess. And coming up here, we're back into Wessex again. I belong to two societies, Bournemouth and Wessex. And what happens with these is that you write out the card, you get an exhibitor number, when you register, and then you write out the card for the plant you're exhibiting. And then when the prizes are awarded, they go and put a sticker on it. So again, this is my handwriting. But that was just for a run-of-the-mill Cattleya hybrid. That again, that's got buds on. That will be coming into bloom soon. And at this particular point in time, again, you see no date on these awards, so it's all down to memory. But this was for my Dendrobium prima donna, the hybrid, the nobly type. More nurse, more wine, more coffee, more something, more rest, I think. And that got a second that time round, and quite honestly, it deserved the second, because the first was the most spectacular Dendrobium that I have ever seen. It was a Delicatum, which is a Kingianum cross. I think it's even a natural hybrid in the wild. But that took first, and I was quite happy to bow to that, but mine got a good close second. I had a chat to some of the judges, and they said there was only 1 point in it. So I did well, And then this one goes with my pride and joy. This is basically April 2007, and on the day, the monthly points competition at the Bournemouth Orchid Society, you get your certificate there and then. But if you get 36 points out of 40 or more, you get one of these. Now at the moment I've only ever had one of these, but I've got one in the pipeline. So this was for my Dendrobium hercoglossum, and this is what I call a proper certificate. It's an award of excellence. You get your name on it, you get the number of points you got out of 40, you get the date, and you get it signed by the chairman. Now that's what I call a proper certificate. But you can't do that on the day. Yeah, because you'd have to have a printer sat there and then waiting to go. So we get these at the meeting following getting one of these, if you get one of these. Right. What have we got next? Millennium Bowl, Best Cattleya Laelia 2018. So that was again at the spring show. I can't actually remember which plant that was for. I've got a feeling it might have been for no, it can't have been for Angel Heart because the leaves are too tatty. I can't remember what that one was for. Again, a problem with not having the true plant name on there. This is another Malvern award. This was for last year, and this was for Dendrobium. Come on, brain. Not Harveyanum. Findlayanum. No, it wasn't. It was Friedrichsianum that happened to be in bloom at the Malvern show. And obviously, as a consequence of that, that's a Dendrobium that's in full bloom in June. Not a late winter, early spring bloomer. Even though it needs a winter rest. It's a funny one, that is. Oh, I shouldn't bend down like that. May 2007. First open class. That's going to be a Dendrobium, and I'm pretty sure that was my Dendrobium Nestor, which is the Anosmum cross. That's about the right time of year. That was probably that one. Hardy terrestrial. I've only got one hardy terrestrial orchid, and it's a variety of a southern marsh orchid. It lives permanently outside. Virtually never gets filmed. It's got quite a lot of stolons, I think they're called, but the underground part of the plant is gradually multiplying. And last year, for the Malvern show, it happened to have quite a few spikes, blooms in good condition, so I put it in, and that actually got an award of merit. This lot down here, which I got my photo in the paper and all sorts of things as a consequence, this is last year's Wessex Orchid Society Spring Show, and this was my Dendrobium prima donna. It got the President's Trophy, and it actually got 2 ribbons. It got Best Hybrid in Show and an award of excellence. They don't necessarily go together. They're a bit loud and blousy, these ribbons, but this is a nice award to get from Wessex. You know, Best Hybrid in Show is quite something. To get your best orchid in class is quite good, but a best in show is pretty special. You know, there would have been a best species in show, best hybrid in show, so there's only 2 basically. So those are they, and we do have something quite special coming up. There's an award, there's one of these which isn't up there yet, and that's for my Cattleya cernua, that at our Christmas do not only got first in the points competition, but it got one of those as well. So at the next Bournemouth Orchid Society meeting, I will get one of those with Cattleya cernua written on it and everything like that. And at that point I'm going to have to shuffle these around, because that one goes with that, not with that. And if I'm going to get another one of those, I want the one of these that goes with it together as a pair. And I might start taking some of these down now because I'm running out of space. I'll end up dipping into the cat's bowls if I'm not careful. And the lower they get on the wall, the less I'm liable to look at them. So there might be some of these bland ones like this that, although they're special because it's an international show, they don't mean a lot because they've got no date and no plant ID. You know, they're nice to have and nice to be given, but not necessarily nice to display. So we'll have a shuffle round when we get the next lot. So that's not me blowing my own trumpet. This was a request. Somebody asked to see the awards and what what plants were actually involved. It's too difficult to actually film the plants and then look at the award. Because first of all, I'd have to either bring the plants out into the kitchen or take the awards down out into the grow room. But we've discussed the plants and stuff like that. So as I say, don't think this is me blowing my own trumpet. I don't grow my orchids for shows. I grow my orchids because it's my hobby. If some happen to coincidentally be in a reasonable condition and have some reasonable blooms on at the point when a show comes up, I put them in and cross my fingers and everything else. But I don't grow them for the purpose of showing them. That's not my point. There's quite a lot of people at both of the orchid societies I belong to, that's their primary goal. Their sole purpose for growing the orchids is to put them into the competitions and win points and win prizes and take home silverware. That's not my goal. My goal is to grow nice plants and have an enjoyable time doing it. It's my hobby. Yeah? So there we go. Anyway, as I said, that was a sort of request, and I'm looking forward to the next one of these because these are pretty special. 36 plus points out of 40 takes a bit of doing, and as you've all seen with the videos that the plant's been in, Cattleya cernua did do a mass blooming, and right at the right time to actually get it on a competition table. That doesn't always happen. You know, I've had some stunning displays from some of my orchids and they're in between meetings and they're short-lived blooms. So So you just sort of have to think, oh well, maybe next time it'll be later or earlier. But that's just life, that's how it goes. But I don't grow my orchids for this reason. This is by the way. Nice to have, but not the goal. So there we go, that's my wall of awards. And there is some silverware that goes with that, but that's actually, quite honestly, it's not even on display. It's tucked away in a corner in the lounge. Because if it's on display, I have to keep it clean, and it annoys me. Trying to keep silverware clean is a pain in the proverbial. But I'm quite happy to have these stuck up in the kitchen. Anyway, that was that, and see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.